All right. All right. Looks like we're live. Looks like things are working. So let's get, well, we'll give it a second, make sure everybody's paying attention, I guess. But no, let's get into it. We'll get the disclaimers out of the way, then we'll jump right into it. So this is the weekly live broadcast, generally every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am. And I do my best to respond to every comment there and every chat that comes in during the live broadcast itself. So not the comments on the video necessarily, haven't been good about that, but the chat that's going on during the live broadcast. So if you've had comments you've left I haven't responded to, this is a good place to get your questions answered because I do my best to respond to all of them. Unless you're talking to each other. In that case, it's no big deal. I let you talk to each other, but I skip over those a lot of the time. So no topic planned out. This is Ask Me Anything. Talk about anything you want to talk about. But I do ask that you keep it family friendly, be polite, don't be rude with anybody or hateful. Don't start cussing at us or calling names or any of those kinds of things. So let's jump into it. We got Andy Rabbit was here. Good to see you, Andy. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Don from South Central Illinois says, first like. Thank you for that, too. I appreciate that. Looks like we got 25 people here, 15 likes, so we're doing pretty good. A bunch of likes before we even started. Jennifer says, I'm trying to find out, do 2-week-old rabbits need a heat lamp? Well, probably not. It depends a little bit. I mean, I have never provided my rabbits a heat lamp, and I've had babies like newborns born when it's below freezing. And I've never had to worry about it really. As long as they're born in the nest box, they've got fur covering them up, they're going to be fine. You probably don't have anything at all to worry about. They'll huddle together underneath that fur that covers them up and stay plenty warm. Now, I don't know how cold it's getting in your area. So, I mean, I think the coldest I've ever kept rabbits, young rabbits down in the teens, Fahrenheit. So, but I've never provided a heat lamp and never had really any problems. Unless even at 2 weeks old, though, they're I almost said feathered out. They've got all their fur. They're doing pretty good. They should be able to get in and out of the nest box probably on their own. They shouldn't need a heat lamp at all. Hey, Buck Reynolds, good to see you. Says hello to everyone. Martin says, Martin Rabbitry says, do any of you have an experience with selling rabbits to your local Rural King or any farm store? How much do you put your meat mutts for? I don't have that experience, so maybe somebody else does. I don't know. I did talk to, it was Atwoods, our local Atwoods. They had rabbits for sale, and I asked them about it at one point. They gave me some information. I never followed up on it, so I don't really know. It didn't seem like they were going to pay much, though, because the rabbits they were selling there, I think, were only like $20 a piece, and they're going to have a pretty good profit margin on them. So I'm guessing that they wouldn't buy them for more than about probably $10 or under. But I don't know, honestly. I can't say. Here's John F. says, good evening. Good evening to you. Don says to Martin Rabbitry, is to sell to Rural King, you have to go through corporate. Then they supply their stores. And Buck says different states have different laws. Get a hold of your local agriculture company or agriculture office. It's not bad advice, maybe. Clifton says, good evening from soggy South Mississippi. Yeah, it's pretty soggy here, too. It's been incredibly foggy the last couple of days. It started warming up. We're in the low 40s, mid 40s. We're supposed to be, we had rain pretty much every day a little bit. It's not overly rainy, but it is soggy outside. Everything is just kind of mushy and kind of wet, but it could be worse. Melissa, good to see you. Melissa Sherling says, hey. PJ's Family Farm, good evening to you too. TM says, well, how is the new job going? Well, it's going pretty good so far. Just kind of getting into it still. I'm in it, but starting to build some reporting and seems to be going pretty good. The reporting I built so far is everybody's been enjoying it, been happy about it. Saved them a lot of time. So all in all, so far, so good. Chris Mason says, hello. Glad I finally made a live cast. Just recently found this channel through your rabbit video, but really took a shine to the quail too. Well, awesome. I'm glad you made it too. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. I do apologize if you are a new subscriber. I've kind of slacked off on some videos lately. I haven't really been making much of anything because I'm kind of out of topics, but I'm working on getting back into the swing of thing and getting those videos picked back up. If there's things you want to see, I don't necessarily do a good job of responding to comments, but I do see the comments. So if there's a video you want to see, a topic you want to see, chances are I've probably already done it, but I don't mind doing it again. just leave me a comment on a video or in here and tell me, hey, would you shoot a video on this topic? And I'll see what I can do. Melissa says, hey, can you respond? Can I respond to what? Did I miss something? I'm not sure if I missed your comment and I'm not responding to what you want me to, then ask it again and I'll get to it. Joy from Western Oregon, good to see you. And then we got Warchild from New Zealand here again. Hello to you too. Melissa says, hey, I don't know who you are. I got pulled in this live chat, but hi. Okay, well, hello. I don't know how you got pulled into the live chat. You don't know who we are, but anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. If you're not familiar with the channel, well, what I say on a lot of my videos, I help you to raise your own meat, eggs, and produce from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house. So we talk about meat rabbits, quail, sometimes meat chickens, gardening, those kinds of things. Those are the things that we are pretty much, and I think most people are probably more so the quail than anything else, really, I think. But, we do a variety of things. Bob says, good evening to all. Good evening to you too, Bob. And Billy Glass, good evening to you. So and Tara's here, says hello to everyone listening while working on business paperwork, so likely won't see comments. The baby rabbits are doing well. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Good to know they're doing well. Hopefully business paperwork is not fun. Hopefully that's going well. We got Don from South Mississippi collecting eggs for another hatch. Well, good luck with your hatch. I hope that goes well. I'm not getting much right now on eggs. I get roughly one a day because it's been so gloomy. The solar light's not working and the quail have all but quit laying. They'll pick back up, so I'm not too worried about it. Tony from Tony with the hard last name from Toronto. Good to see you. Sage Wolf from Northeast Ohio. Hello. Hey, Nikki James. Good to see you. And PJ Family Farm says hi to you too. Marty says to Martin Rabbitry, I sell my rabbits to Rural King. Talk to the manager. I get about $15 here in West Virginia. I think it's West Virginia Rural King. Yeah, okay. So $15. I mean, that's not terrible. That's all right. Selling them at young, I assume like 6 weeks old, roughly. I may have to check back with Atwoods. It may be I don't know, $15 is a little cheap to sell pedigree silver fox rabbits for, but still wouldn't be bad to sell a couple of them here and there to help pay for the quail feed. I don't get quail feed from there very often, but I do occasionally. Marty says, hello, Chris and everyone. Well, good to see you, Marty. Verna's here, says hello to everyone. Hello to you too, Verna. Let's see. Billy Glass says, Chris, what's your favorite quail to raise and why? This is a pretty common question, and I've done videos on this topic before. Now, I don't know if you're asking me, like, when you say favorite kind, I mean, Coturnix is the kind of quail I raise. There are different breeds of quail, different species of quail, I guess. There's Bob Whites, there's Californias, there's California king quail. Anyway, there's a couple of valley quail. Anyway, there's a lot of different type of quail out there. I raise Coturnix quail. Now, if you're talking specifically Coturnix and the different color strains, the different, what do you call those? Mutations, I guess. Well, not mutations. I don't know. Maybe we call them breeds. I don't know. That doesn't really sound right either because they're really all the same species. Coturnix, no matter what color, are all Coturnix. So they're going to breed together and reproduce, and they're anyway, but you do have different colors. So you have like the whites, you have the silvers, you have the Egyptians, you have all those. I like primarily, I raise for meat and eggs. That's what I'm into. I don't really care about all the different colors. They're kind of cool, but I got over it. That's not really my deal. I really prefer just meat and egg. And for meat and eggs, you can't hardly beat Pharaoh, Jumbo Wild, Jumbo Brown, whatever you want to call them. It's all the same bird. Jumbo Meat Maker. It's another name for them. They're as big as really but any of the other jumbo birds out there. There are some jumbo whites and a couple other color strains that are jumbos, but the jumbo browns are as big as any of the other ones. They lay as many eggs as any of the other ones, and you can look at them and tell that's a male, that's a female. They're feather sexable, so it's super easy to be able to separate out your roosters and your hens and make sure you got your hen to rooster ratio correct. Whereas some of the other, like the jumbo whites, for example, you have to vit sex those to know your males from your females, or watch and catch one crowing or something like that. So that's why I raise the jumbo brown, the jumbo meat maker. Like I said, they're all the same, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully that answers the question. Let's see. There's Chris Esteb, I think it is. I scrolled too far and I lost the comment. It says, hey, Chris. Well, hello to you too. Scott says, hello from Texas again. What's your opinion on breeding Tamuk rabbits for meat, being I'm in hot Texas? Your opinion? So, I skipped a word there because, well, it's on the borderline of profanity. Not really that bad. I'm not going to call you out for it, but be careful. Just make sure you don't get too out there with it. So Scott, okay, so for Tamuk rabbits, I don't have personal experience with Tamuks. Everything I've seen about them, they are a pretty good heat tolerant rabbit. They're basically a New Zealand white. So as far as meat rabbits go, it's like it would be a good choice for there in Texas. What I would do, honestly, if I lived in Texas, I mean, we get pretty much as hot here in the summer as they do in Texas. It doesn't last as long. It's not hot as long as it is in Texas, but it's as hot. I mean, when I lived in Texas, I remember people, they'd be hot out and they'd come outside on break and, oh man, I bet you wish you were back home in Missouri today. And I'm like, no, man, it's hotter there than it is here. And they didn't believe me. I'd have to pull up the weather app and show them, yeah, look, well, but you don't have humidity. Yeah, well, it was 80% humidity. I mean, yeah, we do. But anyway, I digress. If I was living in a place where it was super hot and I was really worried about that with the rabbits, look for somebody that's a local breeder that has whatever breed of rabbit it is they're breeding. They're acclimated to your area, so they would probably be a good choice for you. Now, again, I hear Tamuks are great heat tolerant rabbits, but if you're ordering Tamuks in from someplace way up north where it's a lot cooler, they may still struggle with that heat that, transfer over, because especially if they've been up in that for generations up there, but if you can get Tamuks from a local breeder, then definitely go for it. David says, how about a video on heat lamps versus heat plates, pros and cons? I may have to do that at some point. I don't have heat plates. I've never actually used them. So I may have to get some, try it out. That's a great video suggestion. I'll take a note of it. Let's see. What am I doing here? I got to find a piece of paper that's not important. My desk is littered with junk here that is, let's see, is that important? No, that's not important. Heat lamp versus heat plate. Got it. Thank you for that suggestion. That's a good one. I'll see what I can do. It'll be a little while because I'll have to pick some up, have a hatch, test them out, all that good stuff. But anyway, Andy Rabbit wants to know how everybody's doing tonight. I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. Hopefully you are too. Hey there, Buster. Good to see you. RBL Jackson says, gonna do a big call soon. Hatching out more Bob Whites this weekend, and a batch of new Coturnics due in 2 weeks. Also sold 3 dozen Bob White eggs today. So that was a nice surprise. Well, awesome. It sounds like things are going pretty well. Good luck with your next hatch. Hopefully that goes well. Oh, darn it. I'm knocking things. You can't see this. I'm knocking things off on my desk onto my. Okay, there we go. Where are we at here? Martin Rabbitry says, where or how do you sell your rabbits? Do you advertise from Facebook or Instagram? And does that get much good traffic? I don't advertise on Facebook. As far as I know, Facebook still does not allow the sale of animals. I do see people putting like dogs and things up for adoption and, asking for a rehoming fee. I don't know how they get away with that. I don't know if they get flagged and can get away with it. But as far as I know, it's against Facebook's policy to sell animals. So I don't do that. I do offer them up on Craigslist whenever I sell them. Craigslist does offer that. So I do that. I don't know. I don't know of really any other good places. I don't get a lot of traffic from it, but I do get some. And I'll sell some every once in a while. I don't sell a ton of rabbits. Usually when I have a couple of litters, I'll sell, a handful of them, 4, maybe 5. Try to make some money just to pay for feed cost, and that's about it. So I'm not really in the business of selling rabbits. There may be other people that have better suggestions, but that's how I've done it. RBL Jackson says layers are about to become feeders for me. Yeah, well, that's what happens. They get up older. You just you eat the older ones and hatch out more. Farmer Marshall, the Urban Gardener, says, hey, from Georgia, glad to catch another live. Well, I'm glad you made it too. Thanks for joining us. Verna says, hey, Chris, I got double my asking price for my kit. For your kit. Your kit meaning your rabbit or some other kind of kit. Did I miss something? I'm not sure. Well, good. I mean, double your asking price is great, but I don't know what we're talking about exactly. Bev Smith says, hey, everyone, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to you, too. Hey, there's Linda. Linda Easton Waller says, howdy, Chris, and all my Quail peeps tuning in while doing evening chores. Well, chores. Well, thank you for joining us. Hopefully your chores are going well. Oh, that reminds me of something. I don't know why, but there is a sale going on starting tomorrow on the Greenstock vertical gardens, the vertical growing garden. If you don't have one, they're fantastic. They worked really well for me to grow. I grew a lot of lettuce and carrots and some basil and, several different things in mine last year. I had several crop rotations in them, and, man, they work fantastic. They're great. So don't forget to check my video descriptions. All my video descriptions have links in them to discounted products. You can get a little bit of a discount on top of the sale that's already going to be going on. Get ready for spring. So that starts tomorrow. Check my video descriptions, any of them, the recent ones, and you'll see the link to where you can get a discount on the Greenstock garden. Bev Smith says, I'm thinking about getting a batch of mixed eggs just for fun. Well, there's no reason not to. If that's what you want to do it. Andy Rabbit says hello to Linda. I'll let you guys talk. Bob Cole says, question, my original quintet I got from Southwest give me 5 or 6 eggs from 4 hens. Offspring, not so much. Got quintet in December 22nd. What's with the kids, grandkids? Are we talking about, we're talking about quail here, aren't we, Bob? I'm sorry. I'm kind of a little lost. So you're saying, so your original birds that you got from Southwest Game Birds, I'm guessing that's what it is, gave you 5 or 6 eggs from 4 hens, 5 or 6 a day from 4 hens. That's overproduction. That's great. It says the offspring, not so much. Got the quintet in December. What's with the kids and the grandkids? Well, it could be just time of year, part of it. It is, the shortest days of the year right now, and quail need a lot of light in order to produce eggs on a regular basis. Like I said earlier, we've been so gloomy that my solar light's not working, and my quail are down to, I'm getting 1 egg a day out of them right now. It'll pick back up as the days get a little bit longer. I don't know if you'll ever get back up to 5, 6 for 4 hens. That's quite a bit, actually. But anyway, hopefully that's it. Hopefully it's just, the time of the year we're in right now. Other than that, I've never noticed a big difference from one generation to the next. Quail lay eggs like quail lay eggs. It doesn't really matter. So I don't know that I can answer that for you if that's not the issue, unless you've changed something feed-wise and something like that, or you're stressing them out. If they get real stressed out, they won't lay as well either, which is usually comes from like moving them around a lot. If you're moving them from one hutch to another or something like that. Marty says, Chris, my rabbits are mutual meat rabbits. RK here buys all rabbits at that price here, and they sell them for $25. So, okay, well, that makes sense. And $15 for a rabbit's not bad, especially a meat butt rabbit. That's pretty good. So, yeah, that's not a bad deal. I'd sell them for that price too. Andy Rabbit says, Bev, there's a problem with mixed egg sets. You might want to get more of each type you hatch. There's a problem with mixed egg sets? Really? I don't know that there's a problem with it, but I'm going to grab a drink here real quick. I don't know what problem there is with mixed egg sets, so you might want to expand on that just a little bit. I'm kind of curious to hear it. You may be right. Linda says, Chris, what are you most excited about in terms of your homesteading projects right now? Well, I think we've talked about this before. I don't ever really consider myself a homesteader necessarily. I guess I do kind of fall into that category a little bit, but not big time. I've been kind of just, I don't know if I have huge plans right now. I got to get the garden going. That's kind of exciting. It's almost time to order some chickens in, get some meat chickens going. So that's kind of exciting. I don't know what I'm most excited about, really. I'm still kind of in the what do I do kind of phase right now. Everything's kind of in a lull because it's wintertime and there's not much going on. I do have one rabbit bred. I need to get the other one bred. It was so cold last week and gloomy. I just didn't want to mess with it. But now it's warming up a little bit. It's a little bit better. So maybe she'll go ahead and breed. So that's kind of exciting too. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm really, there's just lots of little things going on, but nothing too big and too terribly exciting. Beth Smith says, you're probably right, Andy, but I won't know what I like until I try them all. Don Don says to Bob Cole, there's a reason that he went out of business. So Southwest Game Birds went out of business? Is that what you're saying? Interesting. I didn't know that. Andy Rabbit says, if I was in Texas, I would get a hold of Texas A&M to buy from, get the real thing. Well, yeah, I mean, just because you're in Texas doesn't mean you're anywhere near Texas A&M, though. It may be a lot closer to get them from somebody else. But, yeah, that's not a bad point. If you're close enough and you can get them, I don't think they still have them. I mean, they developed the breed, but I don't know that they still have. I don't know that you can actually get rabbits from them, can you? I don't know. Maybe you can. Scott says the reason I asked is because someone in my area has Tamuk for $30 each at 6 months old. Well, that's not a terrible price. I mean, that's a little high, but they're purebred pedigree Tamuk rabbits. That seems like a pretty decent deal. I spend more than that on, my silver foxes. Don says, I thought there were no Texas A&M for the past few years. All have the spot on the top of their heads, so not A&M. I think you're talking about Quail, Don, and she's talking about rabbits. Tamuks are a Texas A&M rabbit. They're a New Zealand white that's been bred to be heat tolerant by Texas A&M. And, a lot of the times people do call the white quail. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Andy's talking about the white quail, but I don't think so. I think we're talking rabbits there. But there are, white quail, and they're typically referred to as Texas A&M quail, but they're probably not. They're probably more like an English white. I mean, just because they're white doesn't mean they're a Texas A&M. I think you're right on that one, Don. I don't think they're even around anymore. But who knows? Chris says, "What are your thoughts on button quail to sell? Do you know anyone doing it?" I don't right offhand. I'm not into button. Don says, Bryant's Roost raises and sells buttons. Okay, so I'm not into button quail. I mean, they're too small to be meat birds. They're just a pet bird, just kind of a cool thing, I guess. So I don't know if there's a market for them or not. If there's a market and you want to just make some money, then do it. But I don't know if there's a market for them or not. Yeah, Andy's saying for the rabbits. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, okay, we're getting it figured out now. I think I already explained that. Don says, yeah, really, they have rabbits the same name as their old quail. I didn't know that. Are they white too? Yeah. I think I explained that. They're a New Zealand white rabbit that was bred to be heat tolerant. So that's what they are. So Verna's saying, when you said you sold for double your asking price it was for your Havana kit. It's a blue Havana kit. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Getting twice what you asked for. That's always a good deal. Tiny Quail Ranch from Ontario, Canada. Good to see you. Thanks. R&W Farmstead says, my wife loves her green stalks. Yeah, they're pretty great. I'm pretty impressed with them, honestly. And, very affordable compared to any of the other kind of vertical growing, towers or whatever you want to call them. They're way more affordable and just fantastic. I mean, it just works really well. It's a great design. I'm super impressed with mine. Anyway, Verna says, I'm filling my second green stock with rabbit and quail scat. Well, there you go. Yeah, I need to refresh mine a little bit too, but it's, I don't know. It may be good to go for another season. Hey, Caesar, good to see you. Caesar Reyes says hello. Short Pickens Quail says, hey, Chris, how did you fare the ice storm we had? Well, we didn't really have much of an ice storm. We had freezing rain, and it was just kind of a light sheet of ice. This is so strange. My new job, when the weather's really bad, they close. And they closed on Monday because of the ice, on the roads and stuff. And it was fairly slick in a lot of spots. It was just kind of a light sheet of ice over the roadways and stuff. It wasn't like an ice storm necessarily. It was just, like I said, freezing rain. So it did, put a light sheet of ice over everything. But I'm not used to that at all. I worked in call centers for 30 years and, we don't close for anything. You always go to work, always, or I can work from home if I have to. But anyway, so it was very strange to have the day off. But anyway, I did fine. No issues. My wife, she had to go to work. She drove in. She works in Oklahoma, which, we live in Missouri. She works in Oklahoma. I work in Kansas, but we're right on the border. So it's not really that far. It's about a 30-minute drive. She has to go down the interstate. She said her traction control was on a few times, and the parking lot at her work was like a sheet of ice or like glass, she said. But it was all pretty much cleared up by like little afternoon, maybe 1 o'clock-ish or so. It was all pretty much thawed out. So it wasn't that bad. It was cold and, you know, a little bit hard to go out and take care of the rabbits and stuff in the morning because there was ice everywhere. But all in all, it wasn't that bad. Rabbit Homesteading's here. Says, hey, all friends just joined in. Well, hey, we're glad you did. Thanks for joining. Spider Eva says, hello, everyone. Does the cold weather have an effect on the number of eggs laid by quail? I have never noticed the cold weather necessarily. I mean, sometimes when you get a drastic change, like you go from like 70-degree days to 30-degree, you know, something like that, like overnight, you know, that's pretty drastic. But you know what I mean? Sometimes when you get like a really drastic weather shift, yeah, it can affect them a little bit I mean, you're not going to notice that for a couple of days because they already have eggs built up inside of them. And then after they lay those eggs over the next couple of days, then they may shut down for a little while and pick right back up. But I've never noticed the cold really affecting them that much. It really has more to do with the amount of light that they're getting. So I have solar lights, a solar light on my hutch that comes on automatically at dusk and stays on as long as the battery will last. But the problem I have is, like I said, right now, it's the days are so short that even, you know, unless we have like a day where no clouds and it's just nothing but sun, that light doesn't charge up enough to really stay on long enough to make that big of a difference. I mean, it does. I still get some eggs out of them, but the egg production is not that great. But that's not because of the cold. It's because of lack of light, if that makes sense. Chris Mason says, could you provide some insight on the essential equipment and mental preparedness necessary before one orders their first fertilized quail eggs? I've watched your videos and feel like I am ready. Well, you probably are. I don't know about mental preparedness. I mean, it's just one of those things. Don't overthink it. It's not really going to be that hard. You know, you got to have an incubator, of course. You got to have a brooder box ready for them, a heat source like a heat lamp or a heat plate or something like that for when they go into the brooder, and have your outdoor hutch or your cages, whatever you're going to be putting them in after you're done brooding them. And, you know, have all that stuff ready. You don't want to have to be putting that together at the last minute. And make sure, if you haven't done this already, plug your incubator in, set it at 99.5 degrees, and assuming it's a forced air incubator, and then get a couple of thermometers that are calibrated and accurate. Make sure they're calibrated and accurate. Get 2 of them, put them in your incubator, and see if your incubator is actually reading the temperature correctly. A lot of times, you know, almost every home incubator, they're going to be off a little bit. So it may say 99.5 on the incubator, but inside the incubator, it's actually only 98.5. So you have to bump it up a little bit to get it to, you know, calibrate it, so to speak, to get it right. And that's going to be your biggest thing that's going to impact your hatch rate. Make sure your incubator is not sitting in front of an open window where the, cool night air is going to come in, or, right now just cold air anytime because it's wintertime, or, where the sun's going to go across the window and heat the incubator up during the day. Don't set it over like an air conditioner or a heater vent. Keep it in a fairly stable environment that doesn't have huge fluctuations in temperature. It can deal with like a gradual decrease in temperature at nighttime and a gradual increase during the day when, but it they don't do a very good job of dealing with real drastic, changes. So if you got it over a heater vent that blows hot air on it and then, stops, and then blows hot air on it and then stops, that's going to be a problem. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, if that really gives you what you're looking for, but, if you watch the videos, you feel like you're ready, you probably are. It's calibrate your incubator, make sure you got all the equipment in place, and that's it. Just do it. Don't stress whenever it comes time for, hatching. When you get ready, like, excuse me, so you're at day 17, day 18, and you don't see anything happening, don't freak out. Give it some time, let it happen. And don't rush in and open the incubator as soon as you see one hatch, because that can be detrimental too. Give them, let them sit for at least 24 hours after they hatch until they're dry and fluffy before you open it up and move any of them out. You can go 48 hours if you want. You could go a little longer, but honestly, what usually happens when you have a decent hatch is you have most of them hatch out right at day 17, 18, and then it'll be a couple of days after that, you'll get several more that hatch. So I usually give them 24 hours from the first one hatching, move out what's hatched and is dry and fluffy. If there's any that are still not dry, I leave them in there. And then close it back up, and usually can get a few more to hatch after that. But don't stress, because when it comes hatch day, you're not going to see anything. It's going to, like, nothing's happening. It's not working. You're going to be like, oh no, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, boom, hatch. It's just the way it goes. George says, hey, Chris, hello from Australia. You inspired me to start raising quail. Started with 24 eggs sent in the mail. I now have more than 60 and an abundant supply of meat and eggs. Well, that is awesome. I'm glad that I was an inspiration for that. I'm glad that things are going well for you. Sounds like you've got it under control. So well done. Bob says, got 6 from the 4 hens today. No change in feed. All have same light over hutches 15 hours a day. So you got 6 eggs from 4 hens today. I don't think you have anything to complain about. I mean, that sounds pretty good. I don't know if there's something else, but yeah, sounds like you got it all under control. That sounds pretty good. Andy Rabbit says, Chris, I was joking about mixed egg sets. The problem is you might want to order a set of each type you hatch out. Quail mouth. Oh, okay. I get it now. I understand. Sometimes the sarcasm doesn't come across well in a comment, but that makes total sense. Yeah, if you get mixed sets and then you like them all, then you got to order a whole bunch of each one. Yeah, that makes sense. That could be a problem pretty quick, wouldn't it? Bob says, I don't think that Southwest Michael went out, or SW Michael, I guess it's Southwest Game Birds. I think that's what that is. Says, I don't think they went out of business. Haven't heard that. I hadn't heard that either, but I don't keep up with them that much. Andy Rabbit says, there's not a problem with mixed sets. No, well, yeah, I get it now, what you're saying about the problem with them, but I didn't understand it to begin with. David Lister says, the recent hatch from the GQF puts us up to 130 plus quail in our shed. We often see 40 to 50 eggs a day. Hello, I'm Dave, and I raise quail. That's a lot of eggs, 40 to 50. I don't know what I could do with that. So Don says, Bob Cole says, no more selling eggs. He told us all a month ago, gave all his eggs to Rebecca Lynch. Okay, I don't know who Rebecca Lynch is right offhand, but I'm sure I probably should. Andy Rabbit says, say Southwest Game Birds don't ship eggs anymore. They have live birds till around spring. Huh. They sell live birds. Okay, there's a bunch of people that knew that. I didn't. I've actually never done business with Southwest Game Birds. I hear they're a good supplier, but I mean, I guess they're not selling eggs anymore. So, Chris Mason says, question, could you recommend any book, website, or other material that provide details on quail health care, especially suited for someone who is new to raising quail? Well, I mean, my videos, I've got a ton of videos. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's other books and websites. I know Verna's going to recommend probably Quail University. That's a great resource. But I don't know of any other books or anything on quail healthcare. As far as healthcare goes, they're not really prone to a lot of illness issues. I mean, the biggest things you run into is probably foot problems like bumblefoot or leg issues. And even then, that's not really a big issue. I very seldom ever have any kind of problems with that. If you're really concerned about that, get vinyl coated or PVC coated hardware cloth. That will help out a lot with that issue, especially if your birds are on the bigger side. But that's about it, really. There's not a whole lot of health issues that they run into. So, I don't know of a lot of healthcare suggestions for it. Maybe somebody else out here has some good suggestions for that. Andy says, I agree. I see no use with button quail either. Don says, only until spring. He's going out. We're talking about Southwest Game Birds still. He's going out all the way. Eggs are over already. Miss Kitty says, hello from Utah. No new snow. Hurrah. Yeah, we only had like one snowfall so far this year. One decent one. Jennifer says, hello, Chris. How many carrots did you get in each pocket of your green stock? 3. So, yeah, I grew 3 in each one of them. And they did fine. You might be able to do 4, but that would probably be a little bit on the crowded side. Here I just talk about not many issues with quail. And we got Christine Smith saying, I have a quail that seems sick and getting picked on. I have her separated. Can she be alone? She can see her flock still. Thank you. Excuse me. So, I mean, you can keep them alone. Hang on. Grab another sip here. You can keep those birds alone. The problem you're going to run into is when you try to reintroduce them back into the flock. A lot of the times they're seen as an outsider at that point, and they may get beat up and picked on even more. Why she seems sick right now, I don't know. I mean, maybe just got singled out and got picked on, and that can happen sometimes. You can try to keep her alone and see how well she does. When you go to integrate her back in, you're going to have to watch pretty closely and make sure that she's not getting too beat up right at that point. A lot of the times, if I have a bird that starts looking pretty sick, I mean, it's pretty common with any kind of farm animal, honestly, is that you don't notice they're sick until it's almost too late. Because they're, as a prey species, especially with rabbits and quail, they tend to not show any signs of illness until it's just too late. They don't want to, I mean, it's just a natural instinct, a natural trait, I guess. In the wild, if they show illness, then they're seen as the weak one. They get thinned out by the predators. So, anyway, all that to say is, I mean, good luck. Hopefully she recovers just fine. Hopefully it is just a matter of getting picked on. I've seen birds come back from pretty horrendous injuries, pretty horrendous being picked on. I had a bird lose a leg one time from a fox pulling their legs off underneath the quail hutch, and it lived for a long time with just one leg, and that seemed like horrible. Didn't look like anything was bothering it. It looked fine. It lived for a long time with that. So hopefully she does make it back okay. I don't know if I answered your question. Hopefully I did. Hopefully I gave you some reassurance. You might keep her separated, but I'd get her back in there as soon as you can, and watch her pretty close when you do. Bob says about, let's see, he says, I know that Southwest only sells live birds, has a relationship with Rebecca for eggs. I think he is focusing on genetic improvement and has thousands of birds. I bought a quintet of jumbo to start with. Dawn may have posted the wrong, I don't know. Anyway, Free Time says, question, in your opinion, is it better to keep layer quail for 1 year or 2? I mean, I've kept them, I see a lot of people that say you have to replace them every year or their egg production will drop. But I usually get close to 2 years. I don't necessarily keep that close a track on it. I just replace them every once in a while, about every 1.5 to 2 years, something like that. Sometimes a little more frequently. It just depends. But yeah, you can definitely keep them for 2 years if you want to. But then again, if you're hatching out new birds all the time, you get birds up to laying age. Why not just replace your breeders before you go into, wintertime or something? All right, we got a bunch of people talking to each other. I'll jump off those. Okay. Don says Southwest Game Birds is not getting away from quail aspect altogether. He's just getting away from public sales. Okay. Spider Riva says, thank you, Chris, and Vay's Place. Well, you are welcome. Don says, David Lister, did you get a new GQF for all those eggs you have? To David Lister, talking to him. TM says, I have been composting my kitchen waste in a 5-gallon bucket with a screw-on gamma lid. Hoping by the time I start planting in my Mr. Stacky planters, my soil will be pretty good. Well, hopefully so. I've never had much luck composting in a container. I mean, if it's already going, I guess it's going to be okay. But hopefully it works well. And Verna says, I have quail and rabbits to process soon. Well, that's always fun. Hopefully that goes well. Oh, no, I scrolled too far again. Sagewell says, my egg count dropped from 8 to 3 during the last cold snap. We were in the single digits. I use Christmas lights to get the light that they need to lay. Well, I mean, that could be because of the drastic drop. If that's the case, they'll pick right back up pretty quick. Give them about a week and a half. But I'm guessing, I mean, even with using lights, if you've got them outside, I mean, the days are so short. We're just barely past the solstice, the winter solstice. Days are starting to get longer now, but we're talking really, really short days. I mean, it's not getting light here till about 7:30 in the morning, and it's dark by about 5:30 at night. So it's pretty short days. So it's hard to keep them laying, at this time of year. But they'll pick back up. Don't worry. Don Skin says having quail gumbo tonight. Well, good luck. Or good luck. Awesome. Hopefully it does sound good. Hopefully it is good. All right, we're still on the Southwest Game Bird thing. We got S.O. Swanson saying Southwest Game Bird has stopped shipping eggs, I think it is. They did a live and said that they are reverting back to their local business only. They do sell live birds for about $34.99 each. $35 a piece. Wow, that's pretty high. Hey, there's Yusef. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. I saw a Facebook post from you the other day. I had to show my wife, talking about is a picture of a livestock guardian dog, a Great Pyrenees, standing out in like a yard or something. It was, obviously wintertime, cold out, and it says, just because you're warm doesn't mean they're cold. Let your humans go back inside and warm up. So, it's a kind of a response. It made me laugh. Kind of a response to all those people. I always say this too, like, don't leave your pets outside. It's too cold out for them. Man, if you got like a guardian, an Anatolian Shepherd or a Great Pyrenees, chances are they're much more comfortable out in that sub-freezing temperature than they are in your 65, 70 degree house. Anyway, S.O. Swanson says for health care for quail, you only need two things: a pair of scissors and a slice of bacon. Yeah, that's a pretty good suggestion. Yusef says, hey, Don. Okay, talking to somebody else. I'll let you guys do that. Hey, there's Brandon from Whiskey Tango Farms. Haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for joining tonight. Good to see you again. Christy Smith says, yes, you gave me some good ideas. I think it is. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. I guess you're talking to me. I don't know. Olga says, good evening. Why would the doe that is not pregnant, 100% sure she is not, would start to build a nest? Thank you. Well, it's not unusual for them to have, like, it sounds like a song, doesn't it? It's not unusual. Anyway, it's not unusual for a rabbit to have a false pregnancy. It just happens from time to time. Why? I don't know. Rabbits do weird things. That's all I can say. If you're 100% sure she's not pregnant, then now I don't know how you would know 100% sure. If you've got cages that butt up to each other and you got a male next to her, it's possible for them to breed through the cage. That happens. But you might want to put a nest box in there just in case. Maybe somebody snuck her in with the buck while you were away. Who knows? But I kind of doubt it. So it's probably just a false pregnancy thing and not a big deal. Maybe a sign that she wants to breed. I don't know. Let's see where we at here. We got a bunch of people talking to each other. Mr. Mattis says, can you feed your quails chicken scratch? Not really a good option for quail. I guess you could feed it to them, but it's usually pretty big pieces, pretty big chunks, and they're going to need some kind of grit to be able to process that with, which, if you have a sandbox, that'll work as grit. But I would suggest not using that, at least not as a primary feed source. I wouldn't even offer it to them. If they were out like in an area where there was chicken scratch and they ate some, it's going to be okay, but it's not a good feed for your quail. Where are we at? Holy cow, I lost track. Where are we at? There we are. M4 Droid says, gonna build two of your quail hutches soon. What would you recommend for the floor? 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch hardware cloth? I use 1/4 inch right now. If you can't afford to, go ahead and get like a coated hardware cloth for the flooring of your rabbit hutch or your quail hutch, and go with 1/2 inch if you're going to do that. But otherwise, I would go with 1/4 inch. Some people have said they've had problems with droppings falling through the 1/4 inch. I never really have. It's never been an issue with me. And I'm afraid that the 1/2 inch hardware cloth with that thin a wire, that small gauge wire, might be a little hard on their feet. So the 1/4 inch would probably be better that way. But like I said, if you can do it, just get a small roll to go ahead and just put on the floor and get coated and go with 1/2 inch. Because if you do coated on 1/4 inch, it's definitely going to be too small. The hole is going to be too small for the droppings to fall through. How are we doing on time? We got 15 minutes left. Keeping me pretty busy tonight. We're doing good. David Lister says he just finished a large bowl of quail stew tonight. Leftovers, but good eats. Sounds good to me. Yeah, Yusef says that's what happened before our livestock guard dog pup got stolen. People kept whining, saying we should be bringing him inside, even though he had a secure shelter outside. And the breed is originally from the mountains of Poland. Yeah, I get it totally. I mean, most of the time, those dogs like that, I mean, they struggle in the heat of summer. The cold of winter they like it. I mean, it's nice for them. And if you give them the choice, chances are they're going to want to be outside as opposed to inside in that stuffy house. It's stuffy to them. But yeah, I get it. I don't know. Somebody may have stolen it because they thought you were mistreating it because it was outside. Who knows? And I'm sorry that happened. That's terrible. I don't. My neighbor has an Anatolian Shepherd and a Great Pyrenees, and honestly, those dogs do not belong in the city. I mean, I like the dogs just fine. They're fine, but they bark at everything all night long. And there's just too much going on in the city. There's always a car driving by or somebody walking down the road or a squirrel or something, and they just nonstop bark all night long. So it usually doesn't bother me too much unless I happen to just wake up in the middle of the night for some reason, and then it's hard to go back to sleep because you got dogs they're pretty much right next to my bedroom. All night long. It drives me crazy. But anyway, that's a different topic. But I am sorry your dog got stolen. That's terrible. Bob says, hey, Chris, during the days of freezing temperatures, do you clean the multitude of frozen poop balls off in the quail hutch or just wait for them to fall through when the weather gets warm? I don't really mess with it. I just let them deal with it. It's not a huge buildup, but there are some. And of course, I usually pare down. I mean, I only have like a dozen birds right now. So I'm not running that many birds over the wintertime. I don't see any reason to feed them out in the wintertime that much. So, where was I going with that? Oh, not only that, but we very seldom stay below freezing for more than a week at a time. So it's not really that. I mean, we're going to be up like 60 degrees next week. So it's really not a big deal. And we're already like 45 today. And I think tomorrow's going to be about the same. I mean, we're not dropping below freezing tonight. So it's not really that big a deal for me. David says, do you have on processing quail to feed Max's counterparts pups? What? Do you have on processing quail to feed Max's counterparts, pup? I'm lost. You lost me on that one, David. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're asking me exactly. Do I give Max scraps from the quail I process? Is that what you're talking about? Not generally. Occasionally. When we did chickens, we kept chicken feet for him, the legs off of them, not the whole leg, just the feet, the yellow part. He loves them. And I do keep rabbit ears for him and, dehydrate those and give them to him as treats. But I don't give him a whole lot of that stuff. Some, not a lot. Olga says, thank you for your valuable answers. I'm always learning something new about the rabbits from your live stream. By the way, how is your new job going? Well, the job's going okay. Had somebody ask that earlier. Don't want to necessarily have to repeat the same things all in all, but yeah, it's going pretty good, really. I'm getting pretty familiar now with the database. There was nobody doing my job before I got there. I'm a data analyst, and they didn't have one. That's why they hired one. And all the data is housed. It's a third-party company. They use a third-party software, and they all have that data. So there wasn't anybody for me to ask when I got access to the database that where is this data stored? I didn't have a database diagram. I just kind of had to plug around in it and figure it out. But I'm getting pretty comfortable with it now, so feeling pretty good. Verna says, know what I do with leftovers? I already know. Freeze dry them, right? Yep, freeze dry them for another day, huh? Andy Rabbit says, Chris, did you try breeding the other doe yet? No, I didn't. It was too nasty out. I just didn't want to be outside. It was stupid cold and just gloomy, and I had the tarps pulled down over the rabbits because the wind chill and all that coming in. So I didn't want to mess with getting all those. It just was too much work. I was being kind of lazy too. But I'm going to try again probably this weekend, see if we can get her bred. I doubt she's going to breed this weekend, but you never know. I'm going to try. Sage Wolf says to M4 Joy, I would recommend a 1/2 by 1 inch coated wire. The poop ball sue easier. This is not a problem for the real young birds to walk on. That's a good suggestion. Not a bad one at all. But maybe, am I using 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch now? Now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm using 1/2 inch hardware cloth on my, I can't remember now. Maybe I'm wrong on the 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch thing. Let me see. Let me see if I got notes here. Do I have notes on what I'm using? I can't remember now all of a sudden. I think it is 1/2 inch square. I was thinking, yeah, I think I do use 1/2 inch. I said 1/4 inch earlier, made all those comments about 1/2 inch being too big. No, I think I got it mixed up. I think I got my sizes mixed up. I don't use 1/2 inch by 1 inch. I use 1/2 inch square hardware cloth. And if you were going to go with 1/2 inch by 1 inch, go with coated, not uncoated, because that would be the thin wire and the too big squares in it. But yeah, 1/2 inch is a good suggestion. Sorry, hopefully you're still on and you caught my update on that. I get mixed up on those sizes sometimes. Caesar says I set up 50 eggs yesterday, followed up your instructions. Wish me luck. Well, good luck. I'm sure it's going to go great. How are we doing on time? 9 minutes left. David Lister says, do you have any way of processing whole quail to feed dogs? Do I have a way of processing whole quail? Well, if you want to feed them whole to your dog, just do a bloodless call. You know, that basically you just grab them behind the head, pull on the head a little bit. Got to be tricky. It's a little, there's a finesse to it to get it just right, but you basically just break the neck and let them go. There's a little bit of a trick to that, because if you pull too hard, you're going to pull their head off, and that's kind of a mess. But other than that, you just keep them whole. And I mean, I don't see any reason to do anything different if your dog will eat whole prey. Andy Rabbit says, hey, Chris, there is an anti-black thing that you can get. It puts off a high-pitched sound. Oh, anti-bark thing. I think that's what it is. I thought anti-black. Where are we going with this? But it actually said anti-back. I read it wrong. You had a typo, so we're both. Anyway, anti-bark thing that you can get. It puts off a high sound when a dog barks. We put one up for our mother-in-law on the same reason as yours, having the dog stop barking. I've seen those before. I thought about trying that, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You set them up right there, basically right at the back where I don't want them to be barking, because if they're on the other side of the house, no big deal. But yeah, may try that. So, and Tara says, you have 1/2 inch. Yeah, I do. I made a mistake. I get my sizes mixed up sometimes. Andy Rabbit says, I bred a few of my Rex this week. I was swapping those cages around to keep them all in the rabbit's shed. So you got a few bred. Well, that's good. Hopefully they do well. And Andy Rabbit's correcting me too. I use 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch hardware cloth. That's what I use. Yeah, sorry. Bev Smith says, I put 1/4 inch hardware cloth in my brooder, and it's a disaster. Now I just throw a bunch of wood pellets on top of the wire with a tray underneath to catch the dust. I use 1/2 inch. You're right. I use 1/2 inch square by for all brooder box, everything. Tommy says, I got a roll of 2 foot by 50 foot 16 gauge black PVC coated welded wire with 1 inch by 1/2 inch mesh size from the Home Depot for the bottom of the cage. Nice stuff. Yeah, that's great for the bottom. You're right. I mean, you could use it for the entire cage, but it's kind of expensive, so you only need to use it for the bottom. Bev says, I grind up my quail for the dogs only because I have from 4 pounds to 50 or 4 pound to 50 pounds of whole quail. Would not be good for the wee ones. Well, there's nothing wrong with grinding that up either. I'm sure the dogs love it. Hey, Boris, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Got in here just in time. We only got about 6 minutes left before we close down for the night, but hey, that's okay. Always better late than never, and we don't keep attendance here anyway, so we didn't keep track of that. Sage Wolf says, you can use 1 inch by 1 inch, but it's borderline for real young birds. One of my cages is that, and for a week, the birds will sometimes tumble. Yeah, and that could lead to leg injuries too. You get too big of a hole, and or too big of a spacing on that, and the birds get their feet tied up in it, tangled up in it, and could lead to a lot of injuries. So I think you're right. I think 1 by 1 is probably a little too big. 1 inch by 1/2 inch, if it's coated, is probably a good size. That's perfect, probably. And then 1/2 inch if it's not coated, because you need to give them that surface area to walk on. I know I tried putting them in a rabbit cage one time, and it didn't work. They couldn't walk on that very well at all. All right, where are we at? We are out of comments. We got just a couple minutes left, and comments have slowed down. Jennifer wants to know, what age do you wean your baby rabbits? Well, they kind of wean themselves, but right about 6 weeks. It just depends. Anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. No sooner than 6 weeks, really. You want to make sure that they have access to their mother for 6 weeks at least. And then whenever I go to wean them, usually it's closer to 7 weeks, sometimes 8. They're pretty much weaned at that point. But when I go to wean them, I usually move about half of them off, give her a couple of days, and then move the other half. So it's not just all of a sudden there's no babies. Let her kind of dry up a little bit in that meantime. But no sooner than 6 weeks. That's kind of the rule. In fact, in a lot of places, that's like the law. I mean, they don't come around and monitor you, but you can't sell animals that are younger than 6 weeks old because they have to be weaned, and you can't wean them before 6 weeks. So anyway, TM says, you got all the questions with time to spare. I did. Yeah. Andy Rabbit says, on a roll tonight with the comments. Yeah, I'm keeping up pretty good tonight. Bev Smith says, question, do males stop producing foam? I was checking one of my Italians this evening, and I know he's a male and no foam. All right, so they're only going to produce foam when it's breeding season, and the same rules apply for your hens laying eggs. If your hens aren't laying eggs, chances are your roosters aren't crowing, and if they're not crowing, and they're not producing foam, basically what it comes down to. So if they don't have the 14 hours a day of light to keep them crowing, to keep them breeding, they're not going to produce foam. It's just something that happens during the breeding season. So hopefully that answers your question and makes sense. David Lister says, smash the like button. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we got 63 people here, 47 likes. We could use a few more, but that's okay. I don't stress about that stuff too much. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? My computer. There we go. Back on track. And no comments to answer again. So we're down at the end. We got 3 minutes left. I got time for another comment or two. Give me something, and we'll get it answered. We'll see what we can do. Bev says, okay, egg production is way down in that pen, although other pens in the shed are still producing, but not as much, still getting about 20 to 30 eggs per day. So, well, there could be a number of reasons for that. I don't know how your shed's set up. I had birds in my garage for a while in stacking cages, and I'd leave the lights on in the garage, and the top cage produced great. The bottom cage, not so much, because it was always in the shadow of that top cage, so it didn't really get that much light. I put a grow light. It was just a short, it wasn't because it was a grow light. It was just a short fluorescent light, basically sitting on top of that bottom cage. Plug that in, got the light up, and boom, they started laying again. So it could be in a shady spot, a shadowy spot in your garage, and that may be why. I don't know. Kurt says, hey, bud, good to see you, Kurt. Thanks for joining us tonight. Just barely in time. We're about to wrap it up, but you got here just in time. Andy says, I wonder how many people might come in around 8 o'clock still. Well, I don't know. I mean, we've been at 7 o'clock for a little while, so hopefully people are used to that by now. D-Bale says, what breed of rabbits do you have? I understand to change some out. Well, I have silver fox right now. That's what I'm breeding, silver fox, pedigreed silver fox. Kurt says, seems like a lot of people have problems with feed, making chickens not lay. I've heard some issues with that, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean, sometimes it can be for sure, but a lot of the time it's lack of light, it's other things, and they're just blaming it on the feed. But, you know, I'm not saying that's never the case, but it's, I don't know that, I don't always buy that it's the feed causing it. Same thing, like somebody finds a cracked shell or a shell with no egg on it, and they automatically go, oh, you need to add calcium. Well, probably not. That's probably just an odd egg. You're going to get those from time to time. Saria, I think it is, Saria Delta says, good day from the laying down under. Great weather here. Cyclone last night. Rescued some willy wagtail. I don't know what that means. Is that a rabbit? I don't know what willy wagtail is. I don't know that slang. But hey, I'm glad you made it through it. A cyclone, that's kind of scary. Yeah, it's summertime for you. It's wintertime for us. So it's kind of cold and nasty here right now. But anyway, Caesar says, I have 3 males. Only 2 are producing foam right now. Yeah, it's the time of year. Bev says, okay, I have a 3rd light. We'll hook up this weekend. Thanks. Just didn't know the males would dry up. LOL. Yeah, no problem. It's common. It happens. Let's see. Gun Clinging Palin says, I'm getting some Tamuk New Zealand rabbits soon. Well, good luck with those. I hope they do well, and congratulations. And we're out of time. It's 8 o'clock. So time for us to Willie Wagtail is a bluebird, huh? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I'll have to look that up. Interesting. So anyway, time for me to wrap this one up. Got to go have dinner, go to bed, go to work tomorrow. So thank you guys for joining me. It's always a good time hanging out. We'll be back, as far as I know, next Thursday. Don't see anything coming up between now and then, but if it does, I'll post in the comments in the community section to let you know. And other than that, I guess we'll see you guys next week. So thanks again for joining. And as always, God bless.